welcome to Crossing the Divide, the show that promotes and encourages common sense as we analyze and discuss current events facing the town of Winchester. My name is Glenn Albanesius, and as always, I'm joined by former Mayor Ken Fracasso. Morning, Ken.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Just a couple opening comments, if we could. We are glad to have you joining us again tonight, and we want to make clear that there's been some comments that we're here because we're campaigning for the next election, and in truth what we're really trying to do is campaign for a better Winsted, and I'm pretty sure that tonight's discussion, which will focus on economic development, will prove that to the viewers that the reality of the situation is we need to change some things here in town for the better. And we are Republicans. We try to run with ideas, and hopefully tonight's discussion will lay that out for everybody. Ken, you got some comments?
Yeah, we had a kind of a continuation from our last broadcast. We talked about getting information. I think this is key. It's the first step in a multi-step process, that we need to get an inventory of the businesses that we have in town, available places for new businesses. And this is something that we've asked the town manager to do, and I firmly believe, and I know you believe the same thing, that this is the point man. The town manager should be in charge of this, in directing this. Mm-hmm. We need a list of all existing businesses, what they do, what their previous use was. If we had this, information, it's something that's critical moving forward. Mm-hmm. As far as the municipal staff, there's things that they could be doing. The big project, however, major road projects, school renovations, things of that nature, those need to wait until this growth and funding are available. In other words, we need to pay for these things as we go. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be able to borrow money, which we've talked about in the past. Another item I think is critical is anything at all that could be done to promote the American Mural Project would be a win situation for us. That'll bring more people to town, which is what we're looking for, and I think that would be a huge investment, that we would be able to realize, some dollars from that. One other thing that I don't believe that we've touched on before is the Highland Lake Marina. I think that needs to be cleaned up to make it a little bit more attractive. We have customers and people that use that right now, mm-hmm. but I think that would be a good economic development, a key for that, and a good way to reestablish our contacts with the Highland Lake Watershed Association. Mm-hmm. We have done some of this already, but we will be putting this on the Board of Selectmen's agenda to have a real discussion and focus on the steps that we believe need to make this progress and to make this happen. Unfortunately, the majority has resisted, and a brief thing that we brought up about EDC recently, but we're going to continue to push forward and make the changes that we think are necessary, and hopefully we can get some feedback from you, the public. We spoke in length about the downtown restabilization efforts. We both believe that there's way too little money there, and I mean that's the key. Any downtown redevelopment is the single home real estate, residents, I think is key. So it's one of the first things that need to happen when we do something like this. I think that if you talk to any professional community planner, they will agree that the first thing that needs to happen is to get people on the street, to get the businesses and have some business transactions there that we can use going forward.
Right.
That involves tax incentives, but I think that this is a realistic goal that will make things happen here in town.
And I think right now, Ken, as we said in the last couple shows, that with the most recent approval of the budget, there's $20,000 in that program, correct?
Right.
And I think we're both in agreement that needs to increase in order to make a real impact.
Right.
And I'm pretty certain that over the next couple meetings that we're going to start to put the criteria together to move that program forward, and obviously want it to be successful. And I hope that the selectmen as a group will put a good good plan in place.
Right. Well, once again, tax relief is the only realistic route, as far as this home-by-home redevelopment, which is what needs to happen. It's been proven time again in, big cities like Boston, Detroit, but also Newburyport, Massachusetts, which is a little closer, to
home here.
what we are. But that's going to be key. And that is, I believe, the first step that needs to occur in this multi-step project, if we're going to get this thing moving forward.
And obviously, we need to promote whatever plan or program we put together. We've said time and time again that, we're good at studying and planning, and we tend to fall a little short on the implementation. So we want to make sure that whatever we decide this program or plan to be, that we get it out in front of the people that are looking for something like this, get them into town, get that transition, from the multi-house, the multi-unit house to a single-family home. People will invest, improve the property, and that just improves the tax revenue once the value of the property goes up. So it's a win-win for the town, it's a win-win for the people coming in and beginning to set up their families here.
As always, there's an alternative plan that's being touted by some people on the other side of the aisle, if I may say that, and their goal is to build a new school. If we put aside the fact that we don't have any money to do that right now, and our ability to borrow is nil or next to nil, I just think that that's the wrong approach to take. I don't think that it will be backed by the taxpayers. I mean, we've gone down this route, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago. They wanted to present this very large bond package, and I think they're replaying the same old record again. And I just think that this is not going to happen, and we're wasting our time, trying to go that route. I think a new building would be nice and people would love it, just like they like new cars and new toys, but it's the wrong approach and the wrong route to take. I don't think that, like I said, it'll get support. We need to fix up downtown. We need to put feet on the street, so to speak. And I think a new school building is way, way, way down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's key, Ken, and I would agree that I think the community agrees that ultimately the education system needs to improve, not only on the education side but probably the facility side as well. But that needs to happen when the timing is right, and we're not to that point, and we're going to probably repeatedly say that in order for economic development to happen and build some momentum, is we really have to start with small, manageable projects and programs, and everything I think will fall in place. We've talked at length about trying to get some community consensus on some things, and I think you'd agree that everyone knows the school system needs to improve and change, but we need to do that when it can happen, and I think financially we're not in a position to do that. While we are in a position, I think, to start the the neighborhood stabilization program, that to me makes sense as a starter program.
Right. And the first key is to take multifamily dwellings and turn them into single-family dwellings, which would increase the tax base. But I believe that similar incentives could be used for some existing single-family homes, to improve those and upgrade some of those. I think also, for another example that we could be using, is for student rentals that attend a local Northwest Community College. And possibly the Gilbert School Boarding Program, which is just starting to gain some momentum, and that may or may not occur. But these are all small steps that we can take in promoting this, in getting started. I think that there should also be some incentives considered for our industrial base. If there's something we can do there with the existing businesses that we have, or hopefully bringing some new businesses into town, this is another step that we could take. We need to be willing to pay, when I say pay, through incentives, to bring new people to town that want to live, work, and spend money here. I think that we need to have a financial plan, a marketing plan in place, and these are all things that can be done at little or no cost.
Right, and it all kind of comes full circle to, you know, the budget battle, I guess I'll call it, that we just had, and you and I were pretty adamant that, you know, we needed to start to take a look at the budget and find savings that we could achieve so that we could get them, you know, get that savings moved towards the investment side.
Right.
And that budget discussion will happen again for next year pretty soon. And I do think that, I know there was a comment in the paper just recently from Mayor Welcome that she has decided that, you know, an increase in revenue is definitely needed. And, you know, the raising taxes to get that revenue, it didn't happen and probably won't happen, you know, in the coming budget. I think especially with reval, when people realize what the tax implications of that, you know, is going to be, I think there's going to be a real pressure on the board to find significant savings next year in next year's budget.
Right. Well, I, for one, am glad that the mayor's finally realized that, you know, we need to increase the tax base and bring new business to town. You know, the only question now is, we'll see, you know, what comes of this. You know, if we get some agreement from the rest of the board and move this thing in a positive fashion. I know another area that you and I agreed, but not so with the other side, was the money that was going to be spent on the P&Z regulations. I think the absolute last thing we want to do now is put more constraints, more holds on businesses that may come to this town. I was disappointed that any money, whatever was spent, I believe that could have been done in-house. I mean, we could have templated, you know, a surrounding community and tweaked it to our needs. I just think that was a huge waste of money, and my fear is that they'll put more regulations, so they'll make it tougher for people that are thinking of coming to town that will just go somewhere else where there's a little bit more flexibility. And I just hope that we tread lightly on this, and, you know, it doesn't become another stranglehold to bring new businesses
Right.
to town.
Well, I'm going to take Mary Ann's comment at face value, because I do think that, you know, collectively we do need to move in the direction of becoming a business-friendly town, you know, putting more feet on the street, as we've mentioned already. And I think it's going to be pretty clear as we move forward that, you know, if roadblocks get thrown in front of that progress, it's going to be pretty evident as to, you know, maybe the agenda or who's doing that, because the clear path to getting this done is to eliminate, you know, regulations, restrictions, you know, zoning stipulations that would prevent a developer or a business coming into town and easily being able to set up shop and start to function. And again, I just hope that, you know, as we discuss this going forward, that, you know, people see and understand that we need to get this stuff to happen, you know, quickly. And, you know, we have a rich history of, you know, preventing stuff happening, and I think that it's time that that changes, and I'm encouraged that it will.
Yeah. Well, you know, just we'll talk about some of the mill buildings or mill properties for just a moment. I mean, I don't foresee any real progress happening there, because this is where you're going to have a developer or developers coming in that are going to spend a large amount of money. And to your point, if we stranglehold them with regulations or whatever, they're just not going to waste their time here. And I'm not saying that we have to give away the store or, you know, let them have carte blanche, but we have to be working with these people and trying to make it, as you said, business friendly if we're going to move this stuff forward.
Right.
You know, if they're going to come in here and invest, you know, between $8 and $30 million, depending on, you know, what kind of project or the scope, the size of it, you know, we need to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, we are here to help them and work with them, not against them.
Right, and we need to allow some flexibility, and again, I know that, you know, again, as I just mentioned, we have a rich history of wanting things, you know, each faction wanting things a certain way, and everybody's going to have to give up a little bit in order for some progress to happen. And you know, I think the zoning regs have obviously gotten, you know, in between some of that progress, but going forward, I think we have the ability, you know, like you said, in-house to, you know, not let those zoning regs be as much of a problem as they have been in the past. And hopefully that will happen, because we do need to really begin to, promote ourselves as a business-friendly town.
Right. And I think along that same lines, if nothing happens, I think we need to, set a date, or, something of that nature, that if after a certain amount of time nothing happens with these buildings, I think that we should tear them down and just make them open space for the time being. And if something comes along, so be it. But I think some properties, give an example, Lambert K, I think it's getting to a point now where it's becoming dangerously unsafe. I mean, I fully expect that building to collapse under a, heavy snow, winter storm, or something bad's going to happen. And I think that we need to get ahead of it a little bit. And if nothing happens per se in the next year, I think we should start, looking at demolishing these things.
And I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in town that would disagree with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's some.
Well, I will take that back, I guess.
I think ultimately what we'd like to see is a mixed use of some of these properties on the Main Street corridor. And that would allow other things to grow and happen, transition from one thing to another. And I think that that would be also key. I'm a little disappointed that nothing's happened with the Capital Products building so far. It's been a year, and if you drive by there, it kind of looks the same, other than maybe now it's just a billboard for a campaign. But that'll be over after today. So the campaign, that is.
Right.
Hopefully that this project will move forward. I don't know if it will with the partner that's there right now, but I think that's key. We need to choose partners that have a track record, have the ability, the money, the backing to make something like this happen.
And you raise a great point, because the town did invest in that project. No matter how you look at it, I know it was what, 85 or 90,000 that the town forego to pass that over to Selectman Rizzullo. I know he has high hopes for the building, but it is a critical piece of property, and the sooner that something happens there, the better. And so far it hasn't. But we hold out some hope that it will.
I think once we get the ball rolling and we get some of these things, we get our fund balance replenished, we get some of our liabilities a little bit better under control, and by that I'm talking about the funding for our pension plan, and some long-term costs for structural improvements. We'll have a tax base that's growing. Our credit rating, will be restored. And we'll have a record of accomplishment, that we can, be proud of. Right. But and let's not forget some up-to-date financials. I mean, that's something that we need to get, straightened out right away. We need to have these audits done on time, and I think little by little, we'll get there. Right,
and it's all building blocks, Ken, as we've said previously, we've said today, and we'll probably say in the future that, incrementally this will happen if we build some consensus with the community, build some consensus with the board, and decide somehow, some way on a plan to step-by-step move forward. And there's a lot to do, and sometimes it's overwhelming. I know that you and I sit sometimes and hash things out, and it's overwhelming at times. And I know that both you and I take this job very seriously and want nothing but the best. And I think now that there's a lot of encouragement, I think, from the community, and certainly with the circumstances facing the town financially, that the time is now to get some of this stuff started. So hopefully that will happen.
Yeah. I just, as I said earlier, everybody likes new things, new cars, new appliances, whatever. But the purpose of this show, as we've stated over, is common sense and a realistic approach. We don't want to put ideas in people's head that we can do whatever we want to do, we can have whatever we want to have, because we just cannot. It's not realistic for 1 second. We can't build new schools, we can't build new firehouses, we can't repave all the roads in town, we can't fix all the bridges in town. We cannot borrow our way to prosperity. We need to correct the things that are in front of us right now. We need to be more efficient. We need to be more economical. I mean, these are the things we need to do. We need to reinvest in ourselves, you know, and these are going to be small steps, but, you know, we need to start these things now, and it's not happening.
Right.
And, you know, it's, with the reval coming, you know, it's just, there's plenty of things coming at us, you know, in the tsunami effect, but I think that if we take a realistic, common sense approach to this, we can work ourselves out of this problem.
Right, and I think that, you know, you raise a good point, Ken. You know, the time is for Winsted to become a town of action. We have become experts at studying and planning, and if we start to do the small stuff and start to do it, you know, well, accurately, correctly, and with some kind of vision in mind, I think that this will begin to you know, to make some changes here in town, and you know, hopefully that, you know, you and I will continue to put agenda items on for the Board of Selectmen meetings, and it's not to make anybody look good or bad or take ownership of any particular issue, but it's just to be, you know, as you know, upfront about where we are as possible. And I think that, you know, those meetings tend to, or have anyway, you know, not been taking on the real important issues, and I think that's a problem. I think that we need to change that.
Well, it is, and unfortunately, I think that lots of times, or almost all the time, whenever we bring up something new, you know, people get defensive right away. I mean, they've got their guard up, you know, and as we stated in the beginning of the show, you know, we're here to campaign for the town. We want to see things improve. I mean, whether it's a D or an R makes no difference to me. You know, I just want to see something move forward. And this is no different than the Board of Education and the stuff with the school. If we can't partner, you know, with each other or have a consensus to move something forward, nothing's ever going to change.
Right.
You know, and as far as this economic stuff goes, you know, it's no different. I mean, we need to be united to move this thing forward. I mean, if one side's going to say build a new school, and the other one's going to say, you know, not. I mean, we have to find some common ground here, because nothing's going to change.
Right.
But it's not impossible. It can be done.
Right, and I think too that you and I have talked about this, you know, at length too, is that we need to engage the community too. It's not just the political people.
Right.
It needs to be, you know, business owners. It needs to be residents. It needs to be, you know, people that visit here, whatever. We need to, you know, learn from them what they envision the town looking like, and that's the information going forward that people that are looking to invest in town, they want to know, you know, is Winchester a place that's willing to grow and prosper, and, you know, what path have they laid out to make that happen? And I think that, you know, it would be prudent for us to, you know, have some, you know, community forums where people submit some ideas, have some general discussions, and I think that's a way that you build some common ground. Because without that, Ken, you're absolutely right. We go nowhere.
Good. But if this were to happen, you know, some things, results that would be shining down on us, so to speak, you know, we would be a community, a real community, that has navigated some very difficult and tumultuous times. And we'd have a real community that has successfully formulated, you know, a consensus where, as I just stated, you know, there's been none in the past, and these are critical. We get the downtown revitalization program going, and we have a balanced population with a business base. I mean, there's only positives to be had from all this.
Right.
You know, we have a town where, you know, maybe some of our children would rather stay here rather than move away, as has been evident, you know, in the past. It's a nice place where they can, you know, raise a family and stay here instead of moving away.
Right.
It would fix our financial problems, you know, long term, and it would just help our tax base moving forward. So I think that the order is very important, Glenn. I think the first and foremost thing is the downtown residential, where most of the value decline is occurring.
Right.
And that's where that decline needs to be stopped and reversed. I don't think we'll have any new stores, or, you know, we'll have a hard time keeping the existing stores there without foot traffic. And the employers won't come without, you know, house market stability. So once again, I think that $20,000 for the revitalization, excuse me, stabilization is way too low. We need to do more with that. And the second thing of this three-phase project would be the mill projects.
Right.
You know, and they're much more expensive. They'll take a lot more capital, and you know, we don't have a line of people showing up with $10 to $50 million that, you know, are going to be here until, you know, we as a town can demonstrate that we have our act together, and you know, we want this to happen. And the third thing is the municipal infrastructures. These are very, very expensive, and you know, we're going to get no tax revenue from these projects. So as a practical matter, we're not going to be able to spend money on this until we've taken these first two steps and increased our tax base and our fund balance to the point where we'll be able to borrow some money to do some of these very expensive, you know, capital improvements. So unfortunately, you know, we're not going to be able to borrow our way out of this. You know, we need to have some money, you know, in the bank in order to borrow whatever's needed to get these projects completed.
Right, I agree. Ken, you know, we need to wrap this up. Our time is growing short here. Both you and I have raised families here in town, and I know that you and I are committed to getting this done. I am absolutely confident that if we take a real, you know, dedicated, you know, incremental approach to the issues that we're facing, that we can start to get this thing done. The key is action, not biting off more than we can chew. You know, choosing a path, choosing a plan, and the steps that we're going to follow to get this thing done. That's what the investors that are going to come in, the residents and the families that are looking at towns to set up their families in, that's what they're looking for. We need to make sure that you know, Winchester is viewed as a town that kind of has its act together. I think we can do that. I'm committed to doing it, and I know you are.
Well, and hopefully that'll be the path that we take. I mean, that's the only way that we're going to, you know, find ourselves out of this problem. So, and as we said, you know, we know that there are other people that think that we should, you know, build a school first and build new firehouses, but it's just, it's not the proper way to go about this.
Right.
So we have laid out a comprehensive plan. We have provided a solution for, you know, part of this for our community needs, and we would ask you to think about that over the coming weeks and months. You know, we're going to ask you to maybe, you know, give us your thoughts, and we'll have many more subjects that we'll bring up, and we will be very interested in your input in these. I thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you very much.